Bandidos, the latest exotic, the Sacrum Imperium, just got a buff. Is this enough to make the weapon viable? In this video, I'm gonna fully break down the new Sacrum. You will get the good, the bad, and the ugly. I am even gonna show you how to make the best build for the Sacrum. And it will have you passively killing heroic NPCs in one shot, elites in two. Hit like if unique and effective builds are for you, and comment Sacrum to support the channel. The Bandidos and I went to the build lab and tested the Sacrum Exotic with the best gear to find out what this weapon can and cannot do. The weapon doesn't work as great as it looks, but in spite of that, and with a little tuck sauce, I managed to find a build you're gonna enjoy with this weapon. Maybe too much. Before we get into the build details, let's get you better acquainted with this exotic. The Sacrum Imperium is an MMR exotic delivered in Title Update 17 and Season 11. It's built on the G28 platform, and as it's equipped right now, I have total damage of 378, RPM of 290, and a mag of 15 with no expertise. I have marksman rifle damage, headshot damage, and mine has an attribute of damage to armor. Your attribute might be different than damage to armor. For weapon handling, the accuracy and stability look great, but that is a little deceiving. We'll get into that in a bit. We got a reload time of 1.9 seconds and a damage drop off that almost gets to 100 meters. As far as the mods, we have headshot damage at 20%. We have 20% stability. We have 20% optimal range, which is very nice, as well as 10% headshot damage. The talent is called the Trap. Tags enemies when in crosshairs, maximum of 10. If agent, that's you, kills any marked target with a headshot, all other targets will have 50% movement speed decreased and receive burn for 10 seconds. You got a 30-second cooldown on this. Killing another enemy with a headshot will shorten the cooldown for 10 seconds. So that's 1/3 of your cooldown. Targets are marked after 1 second in crosshair. As far as the skin goes, this thing is pretty badass looking. I like it a lot. All right, so before 17.2, the time to mark targets was 2 seconds. So they made that faster and it feels just about right. And they also give us a new scope that gives us the option to zoom in. So I'll show you here. I'm running a 4-piece ace. Is a very basic build here just for demonstration purposes on functionality. As far as the backpack goes, I got an Oraldi backpack with weapon handling, headshot damage, and vigilance, and I have a chain killer chest piece. It's a walker chest piece with weapon handling, headshot damage, and perfect headhunter, which is going to allow us to chain kill if possible if the weapon has high enough base damage. This is not the build I'm going to be showing you today. This one is just for demonstration purposes to show you the functionality of this weapon and how it compares to other weapons similar to it. Okay, so to mark targets, it's pretty easy. All you got to do is hover your crosshairs over your target. You don't have to aim for the head. It's anywhere on your target. You have to have more than one target marked in order to activate. And when you do, you catch the others on fire. That's going to last for 10 seconds. So this status effect is independent of all other status effects. It's one that's tied to the weapon talent itself. So you will not be able to increase its duration. It is a stated duration at 10 seconds. Now, one thing that's interesting is notice that the marks are still on the targets, even though we had consumed those marks. So if we kill another target, they don't catch on fire. So that's a little bit of a visual glitch. I haven't noticed a lot of that, but a little bit in the actual gameplay. So let's reset this real quick. But what's really cool is that when you shoot, there's an animation. You'll see a little glow on the barrel, as well as some embers fly out, which is pretty cool. Pretty neat, huh? So let's show you what the shot pattern looks like. I'm going to be trying to control it as best I can and I'm going to be trying to play fully into the RPMs. Okay, so that's what it looks like. Not bad. We are playing pretty close here, so the spread isn't too bad. I want you to notice that I do have breathe control from this. That's 61% stability and 16% weapon handling. So it's the stability that we're really looking for. Okay, let's do the same test, but let's fall back a little bit further. So about 11 meters, it's fine. So same thing. I'm just gonna go full auto on this while controlling it as best I can. Here's our original bloom. And here's the bloom at basically 10-11 meters. Notice it's twice as wide. So at this distance, we were about 5-6 meters. That's basically we shot from, about 5 meters. And so at 10 meters, it got twice as big, that bloom. And so that's what I want you to notice. So for every 5 meters, you can go 2x on your bloom. And that's not fantastic. That's a good segue into our next topic. Handling issues make this weapon unusable as an MMR. So the crosshairs on the Sacrum stay open way too long for a sniper, making the weapon accuracy highly sporadic. Firing in 2 to 3 round bursts amplifies the issue. With the handling, current sights, and newly added optional zoom, the weapon is most effective inside 10 meters. The firing cadence and base damage make fighting at this distance a great risk with this weapon. This weapon brings major ammo issues. The SVD and bolt action MMRs work because they can kill in a few seconds. They can even chain kill with one-shot kills. The Sacrum base damage is too low to do the same, and with the handling issues, this all leads to rapid depletion of ammo. It's not uncommon to refill ammo 2 to 3 times in a single control point. This thing struggles with team play. I have a scenario for you. You spend all your time marking targets. Allies keep killing the targets before you apply the status effect. So you keep marking targets because it's not worth catching just one guy on fire, now is it? Meanwhile, allies keep killing the marked targets. Finally, you trigger the effect with a headshot kill, but there is no one left to burn. So you switch to Eclipse and easily do a better job burning and killing. It can't react fast enough to control a crowd. It takes too long to apply a mass effect to be a reliable crowd control weapon. If a wave of 5 enemies come running out of a door, a fire or foam chem can catch them instantly. This keeps the NPCs from setting up positions, rushing, or flanking. But by the time the Sacrum is done marking these same 5 enemies, your team will have already leveled them, or you may already be overrun. If you find yourself marking a lot of enemies in solo gameplay, the weapon's handling and inability to chain kill does not allow you to take more than 1 to 2 enemies close together inside the 10 seconds they are under the status effect. 30-second cooldown is a big problem. An unintended headshot kill will inadvertently trigger the status effect. With a long cooldown, this can easily cause you to miss the most opportunistic time to use the talent. It takes so long to mark multiple targets. That should be considered the cooldown. The additional 30 seconds just discourages regular usage. Let's see how long it takes on the minimum number of targets to activate. It's a body shot weapon, not a headshot weapon, and it sucks at both. The only time you're encouraged to headshot kill is during the 30-second cooldown, or when no one is marked, or when you have the ideal number of marked targets worthy of the cooldown. That means most of the time you need to do a good job killing with body shots. The downside is the weapon and its mods are locked into the headshot damage, and since the base damage is so low on the weapon, you will need to land a greater number of body shots to kill. This poor time to kill leads to more reloads, more incoming damage, and ultimately depletion of all your ammo. Headshots aren't any better. The crosshairs don't close fast enough to burst fire 2 to 3 rounds quickly. To land the 2 to 4 required consecutive headshots to kill, you must wait for the crosshairs to reset. This RPM is equivalent to the much stronger bolt action rifles that can kill in a single shot. The ideal time to kill with headshots is during the 30-second cooldown. Due to the low damage, bad handling, and NPC behavior, you'd be lucky to get any kill at all inside this 30 seconds, especially when the NPCs are suppressed simply by you pointing at them. The mark them, don't kill them strategy. The long cooldown makes you want to mark as many targets as you can before triggering the effect. The time it takes to mark up to 10 enemies will have you asking why you didn't just kill them with your Dread Edict. It's basically faster. Sacrum doesn't have an identity. It's not good as a marksman or as a status effect weapon. It needs to excel at one or the other, or be better than it currently is at both. Marking targets, cooldowns, and headshot kill activation give the talent too many requirements on a poor weapon platform, making the weapon high risk, very low reward. The Pestilence exotic LMG is a good example to look to for a strong weapon with poor handling and still an amazing status effect like debuff that requires very little conditions. So here's my recommendations for the devs. This weapon needs a higher base damage. Improve the weapon handling, especially the crosshairs time to reset. We need more MMR ammo or ammo regeneration from sharpshooter. Teammates should be able to trigger the effect like the blue screen's talent. Cooldown needs to be less than or equal to 10 seconds. One headshot kill should remove at least 15 seconds from the cooldown, if not all of it. Ideally, scoping works with the focused chest talent. So here's my recommendation for agents. Don't fully spec into the weapon's damage. That sounds crazy, I know. But at the current state of the weapon and its inability to chain kill elites effectively, the low damage and poor handling leads to significant ammo issues, making this a poor marksman rifle for heroic and legendary content. Further, the best in slot chest piece talents like Headhunter and Focus don't function with the Sacrum, and with poor handling and no chain killing, the Hotshot's Headache talent isn't effective at all, even with the 30% handling attribute Hotshots gives it. Headache, the talent, constantly resets and you need at least 2 consecutive headshots without missing to receive any set benefit, making Hotshots with this weapon absolutely useless. It's just not happening with that set. Aces and 8's gear set fails to get the weapon's damage to an optimal level and severely suffers from even more handling issues since it doesn't have added handling. So I think if you try to spec into weapon damage and make this a really solid marksman rifle, you're just gonna find that it just underperforms. So if you build into the Sacrum like you would the SVD, the M1A, or the White Death, the issues will just glare at you and you will end up stashing it away. Lucky for you, I found a build that works around all the Sacrum's issues to kill heroic NPCs in a single shot, elites in 2, all by leaning into the weapon's status effects. In fact, with this build, I aim to throw out as few shots as possible. It's kind of funny. I find myself watching the NPC status effect to death instead of shooting. You will probably too. I hope we can make more builds for this weapon in the future, but for now, I think this one is the best. Why? Your body shots actually kill, even with only one body shot. You manage your ammo issues with special ammo and the fact that you're not throwing out many shots at all. The enemy is always ticking, so you're not worried about the long cooldown on the Sacrum's talent. You don't need to pop out of cover to shoot for long periods of time, like the damage build versions for this weapon that have you taking extra incoming damage. And with this build, it's easy to buff your team with amplified damage. Pay attention, here's the build. And I want to let you know that mine's not perfectly configured, but I'm going to tell you how to make yours even better than mine. So one of the things I want you to know is that I'm not speccing into the weapon's damage capabilities as much as I am into the weapon's status effect capabilities. The idea of this build is to put out as few shots as possible, only the shots necessary to trigger status effects, acquire your special ammo, and get that occasional headshot kill to set off the Sacrum's talent. Otherwise, you're going to let your ticks do all the work. Let me quickly run through the build and then I'll show you the ticks because that's what this is all about. So this is built on 4-piece ongoing directive. This isn't a new gear set, but the devs improved this a couple of seasons ago. So ongoing directive gives us 15% status effects, 30% reload speed, and the talent rules of engagement. So shooting the status affected enemy will apply a mark. So killing a marked enemy grants a full clip of hollow point ammo that gives your active weapon and half a clip of the agent's active weapon to the rest of the party. So marks last for at least 10 seconds. So hollow point ammo amplifies weapon damage by 20% and applies bleed on hit. So you're gonna have 20% amp damage. So that's a source of damage to your weapon and probably all you need because this weapon comes with a lot of headshot damage already on it. And you just need to get the occasional headshot kill. Otherwise, you're only plugging enemies with 1 or 2 body shots and letting the ticks do all the work. So we do have status effects, but it's not for the Imperium. It's for the other status effects like the bleed and also our exotic mask. I'll get into that. So that's why I have status effects everywhere. It's not for the Imperium. I need you to know that because you can't buff its duration. So I have a core attribute of weapon damage, status effects, and headshot damage. You could also put repair skills or skill haste or protection from elites. We're not over speccing into the weapon damage. As a matter of fact, I have a lot of red cores that I just couldn't change. And if I could add some armor, I totally would. I just don't have the ongoing directive pieces to do that. So add more armor on your build. Kind of balance it out, you know, like 3 reds, 2 blues, that kind of thing. You don't even need skill tiers, okay? I just didn't have the option. I'm going to get into that in a second. You do want status effects on every piece though, so keep that in mind. Max out your status effect rolls. The talent on the backpack, so we totally want to run the backpack. It's for the trauma specialist, so increase the duration of your bleed status effects by 50%. That's your duration, that's huge. That's the equivalent of 5 status effect rolls. And all bleed damage done by 100% more damage. And so a lot of your enemies are going to bleed to death. A lot of them are, thanks to this backpack and your special ammo and all the amplified damage and the ticks. Okay, it's all working together. We got a nice synergy. So the gloves are very similar, weapon damage and status effects, and the knees are the same. same weapon damage and status effects. And you guessed it, the holster, exactly the same weapon damage and status effects. If you're looking to be part of a strong, positive community, then I have you covered. Join Tux's Discord. We're not elitists, and we're so much more than just clans and raids. Tux's Discord continues to grow as the central hub for the player base that loves this game and wants to see it thrive. And if you love builds, this is the spot. Also, join Tux's Players Club to support the channel, the cause, while getting access to member perks and extra content like gaming music playlists. Click the join button below. So you want the China Light chest piece for that 15% explosive damage. That is going to buff your vial ticks and thereby making you a stronger ticker, okay? So this does better than perfect glass cannon. The China Light plus glass cannon does better than the sacrifice chest piece with perfect glass cannon. So I'm using this on purpose. So I have status effects and weapon handling and headshot damage. Again, you can put repair skills or skill haste or protection from elites or incoming repairs. And I got a skill tier here because I didn't have the choice, but I would totally run weapon damage or armor here or keep it as a skill tier. It's totally okay because we do have some skills. Now we'll get into that in a second. And I know what you're wondering, what are the alternates to glass cannon? We tried them all. So you can run the ongoing directive chest piece if you want to, but the Parabellum rounds, which give you 15% more amplified damage, is only to your impact from your shots. So that's not going to buff your vial ticks. It's not going to buff your status effect ticks or anything like that. So it's just more weapon damage. So it's a little helpful, but trust me, you want to roll all into the ticks with this build. We also looked at trauma, and trauma's not bad. It wasn't horrible. So I do like the golden gear chest piece that gives you more status effects and an armor core, and then trauma, which applies blind to an enemy hitting the head. So that's adding another type of status effect. It's got a 30-second cooldown. It also has bleed, which you don't need so much, but can be helpful if you need ammo for any reason. But again, when it came to survivability, actually glass cannon brought more survivability. So remember, you're not hanging out of cover a lot. You're kind of playing in cover and just watching people tick to death a lot. You'll see in the gameplay. But yeah, you do take damage, and your armor kits can repair most of that, as well as my repair skills, which I decided to run. So glass cannon for me was a way to go. Okay, and the mask. So I'm running the bio mask. This is a must-have on this build. So it's got status effects, has pro, more headshot damage, and then of course it comes with the skill tier and toxic delivery. So status effects also apply a damage over time debuff for 10 seconds, aligning nicely with that bleed and the fire. So total damage dealt is equal to 50% of your concussion grenade damage and increased by your status effect attributes. So if you look at your concussion grenade, ours is near 2 million, which is basically the cap. It's like 1.95 or something like that is the cap. So we're almost to the cap, but we're just not quite there, and I'm okay with that. So if we had more explosive damage by running 2-piece Grupo, you can get to the cap, but I'd rather have ongoing directive. So for skills, I'm running the fixer because I like having something to fix me. It's a 2-skill fixer, and you can make it even stronger if you ran a repair skills mod or mods on your build. So test that out, okay? And so that's going to make you less glassy. So totally don't skimp out on giving yourself some more heals. If you want to put on even more skill tiers, you can do that. I ran the shock traps. I like the shock traps, and you'll see I kind of playing this come into my spider web type strategy. So I throw the shock traps around me to catch those rushers. There's always rushers. They're always sending new rushers, and they get shocked and they hold still. And since this weapon has really bad weapon handling, the shock's holding them still just enough time for me to get that kill. Whether it's a headshot kill or not doesn't matter. I just need to kill him to get my ammo, and then we're good to go. Notice I'm running Demolitionist. That gives you more explosive damage, which then in turn buffs your vial mask, because remember the vial mask is based off of your concussion grenade. So I found this helpful. You can also run Survivalist and give more damage to status affected targets for your allies. Can run Sharpshooter if you want more stability and headshot damage, but again, I just really not playing into the weapon besides its status effects, and I found that to be the most enjoyable way to run the Sacrum. Otherwise, it just kind of feels like a very weak sniper, and you might as well run the Dread Edict or the White Death or anything else, really. And so I really do find this to be the best build. I want you to know that we did try lots of other backpacks too, because I know you're thinking this, and so I just want to save you from the hassle. But we tried Perfectly Opportunistic. It was okay. I think the ongoing directive backpack just ended up being way better, because if you run this backpack, you end up having to put on the ongoing directive chest piece, and then ongoing directive felt, I guess, a little underwhelming. And plus this requires you to shoot a lot, and which then in turn attracts more damage, and you just don't have the accuracy or the damage to be an effective sniper like the other marksman rifles. So I know. And so we did try also perfect creeping death here, and that was basically useless. So, you know, you're just not doing the fire enough with its 30-second cooldown to make this effective. And the other status effects you can apply with a single bullet. So just the creeping death just really didn't seem worth it. Plus the open world and those control points, there's a lot of space. That 10 meters is just not going to cut it. So that's what we tried on this build, and Wicked didn't really make sense, of course, because then you'd lose the biomask, and that's a must-have with all the things we got going. Okay, so let me show you a quick demonstration. So let's look at an elite. Okay, so I'm just going to put one shot into the elite so you can see how much damage it does. So see that we're ticking at about 210,000 right there. So we almost chewed through all his armor. So let's put that last round in him. We should take him out with the 2 bullets. Okay, so let's take a look at what our total ticks are. So we're gonna mark this guy here real quick, and then we're gonna mark this guy, catch him on fire, and then add that 3rd tick, which is the bleed. So look at that damage numbers there. They're kind of stacking on top of each other, I realize, but it's about 300,000. So what I'm gonna do here is break the numbers apart by just catching one of these guys on fire, and then showing you the damage to the bleed damage too. Okay, so the 76,806 is the fire damage. The rest, the number below it, are the ticks from the vial. Okay, and then now let me show you the bleed damage. So it's 101 plus 108 with some odd numbers that take us over 210. So 210 plus 78, we're at 288,000, almost 300,000 in ticks. That's crazy. Now let's look at the purple guy. So as you can see, he's just got a little sliver of life left. One way around that is just to plug him with 2 shots right away, and then let the ticks finish him off, instead of trying to catch him on the back end. And so what I recommend you do is, of course, get your marks, however many you feel comfortable with making, and then actually start with the heavy guys, just to get them bleeding, and then kill your weakest target. And the ticks aren't shown because they're off the page, apparently. As far as stats, you're not going to see anything special here. So you have 45% crit damage, basically no crit chance. That's just base stuff. We got 179% headshot damage. So that's just from the mods and the weapon itself. And we got a little bit of armor damage. That's from the weapon. Have fun, guys. Don't be too mesmerized by those ticks. Check out this best build to farm countdown with added tips and tricks.
Follow me.